Can you explain how the cost of education has skyrocketed? So, like, do you understand how that happens? Like,
I want to try to do a good job of this.
I would just like to say,
if you asked me healthcare, I would have done been so much more
no.
involved.
I just want to say, like, for this conversation, I'd like there to be no minorities in the room. So, and again, you don't have to give us like the perfect example.
Yeah.
Like, I more or less, can you tell us how this happens?
Yeah. So there are a couple things happening here. And I just have in my head my like education policy friends who actually know this and are going to yell at me for what I get wrong because I've not looked at this in a couple
Don't yell at Ezra,
years.
okay? We're on Flagrant.
So,
we're just having fun.
We're talking about cost inflation culture.
Yeah.
So one thing is that I'm going to rank these from like sort of benign to more problematic. Okay. So one thing is just use this thing called Baumol's cost disease.
Baumol's?
Baumol's. Baumol is cost disease.
Baumol's cost disease.
And the basic insight of it is that things that are reliant on human beings over time get more expensive, not less expensive, as societies grow richer. Things where we make them tend to get less expensive, right? Flat screen televisions, or in one of the very classic ways of looking at this, if you think about how cheap it is to now get a recording of like classical music done, right? It's nothing, right? You pay nothing. Whereas like the symphony costs a lot of money to go to. Right. Whereas, generations ago, it was actually, less expensive because like a lot of people went and saw live music because there was not all this other stuff. So the stuff where we can digitize it, the stuff where we can make it in machines, it tends to get cheaper over time. But when you need a lot of skilled human labor, and colleges are built on skilled human labor, that labor gets more expensive.
Why is that?
Because we just keep paying people more over time. Right? People do not become cheaper.
Okay, so you keep paying people over time, but
so this is true in a bunch of areas. So healthcare is like this too. This is one of the big reasons healthcare costs so much. Nurses, doctors, teaching, right? Things where you have to keep up pay scales in a society that is like growing and getting more affluent. It tends to see its cost inflation like race ahead of things like consumer electronics. So that's like benign, right? That's like a thing that
you can't make a teacher cheaper.
Or you shouldn't.
Or you should. But the idea is that you can make a flat screen cheaper.
So that's
you
one
can
thing.
mass produce it.
But that doesn't. There's a lot of things that doesn't explain. Another thing is we have cut a lot of the money. This is speaking about public universities here, not private. We've cut a lot of the direct money we spent on public universities over time, and we've passed that on to students and families. So in different periods where states, which are the people who primarily fund higher education, have to make big budget cuts, it tends to cut budgets there. And then one of the things they do in those periods is they bring in more out-of-state students, they bring in more foreign students, and then they get sort of used to those income streams.
So let me slow you down right here, just so I understand. So we need to cut the budget, the state budget. So we're going to cut the funding that we have for the state-run universities. The state-run universities still have to maintain their budget, so they push that cost on to the people.
So the cost of tuition goes up. One of the things about the tuition you were talking about a minute ago is tuition has like gotten much, much trickier to evaluate because a lot of people, huge amounts of people don't pay full tuition. So the headline tuition goes up and up and up, but we've created a weirder market where people are paying much different rates depending on the how much their family made. So that's another thing. There's a huge amount of administrative bloat in higher education. Like you just can't get away from that. If you look at funding structures of the personnel there, and you look at how many administrators they have per faculty member, compared to what things were like, 30 years ago or 40 years ago, we have just added administrators and staffing at a crazy rate. And a lot of people ask, and I'm one of them, like, are we getting much for that? Is higher education so much better? Are all these people doing so much? Or have we just, has like the bureaucracy become kind of self-perpetuating?
If the reason you go to college is what we were told is so you can get a better job, we're getting much less for much more money than what we got 20 years ago.
I mean, part of that is just more people going to college.
Sure.
Right.
For whatever
because,
reason.
The college premium is no longer
the college
there.
premium goes down. Then there's things about the colleges competing with each other on amenities, and this is sort of related to the administrative stuff. But, it's like when I went to college, and I went to UC Santa Cruz and then UCLA, the gyms were nice. Like that's a nice gym. The facility, like the pool, like the climbing wall, whatever.
Yeah. Why is there a fucking climbing wall? Like
there's climbing
we're
walls.
here to get educated.
But part of it is that with the selective ones, at least, which is what we're talking about, community college is still very cheap, right? With the selective colleges, they now compete with each other for the best students and like the richer students. Because like the best students get you good ratings in, U.S. News and World Report or whatever, and the richer students pay for everything.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways you get them is when they come and do their tour on your campus.
They take you to, it's like the Four Seasons.
Exactly.
They take you to all the amenities.
So there's been money in that. I am sure there's a bunch of other dimensions. I mean, there's also an issue with increasing amounts of student loans, some of which do get pocketed by the colleges, and they just use that to sort of like increase the rate because it's complicated, but the way the student loans work, if everybody's got them, everybody can pocket at least part of it.
So that's what I want to talk about a little bit. Like, I think it's quite benevolent to have a student loan process in America where they basically say, hey, we're going to give you the money to go to school, no matter how much it is. Like, there's no cap, really, right? Like, whatever the school costs, we will give you that loan, and then you're going to have to deal with it. I think the idea is quite beautiful. It's like we want our people to get educated, and the government is going to back these loans so that we'll have an educated populace. Is it possible that there are people at the universities that are taking advantage of that blank check?
I mean, I don't think arguable. Right?
Yeah.
Some of them, but it's like everything.
I'm not trying to paint everybody as a nefarious character.
I'm actually saying not even some of the universities. I'm saying some of the check, right? Which is to say that there's a lot of research on this. You do a big increase in student loans. All of a sudden, students have more money to go to college. The colleges will take that money. And it's not like they don't they don't just pocket all of it, right? But yes, right?
I'm not even talking about pocketing it. I'm just saying, let's say they're not pocketing it. Let's say they're just building more climbing walls.
But yes, that's what I mean about
that. Yeah,
right.
I don't think that they're stealing money, but if it's a blank check, that check is going to go up. Okay. If, for example, the student loan lending services, what is it? Is it Fannie Mae or Sally Mac
Mae,
or one of those?
Yeah,
what is it?
You're not Fannie, it's Sally.
Sally Mae, right? So
there's Pell Grants, there's all these different things.
But if they limited the total amount at $150,000. That's how much universities will cost, and maybe there would be less amenities, and maybe there would be less bureaucracy. But there is no limit, so why would they limit the bureaucracy, and why would they limit the climbing walls? If you put a guardrail on it, they'll be forced to decrease the cost of education or increase the amount of foreign students to make up for it, which could also piss off Americans.
So this was a huge fight in the Obama years. One of the things that sometimes frustrates liberal wonky people about this stuff is that in ways that were not well covered, there have been a lot of efforts to try to do something here. So in the Obama years, they did a bunch of higher ed reforms. And one of the things that they tried to do was, and again, I'm worried about getting things wrong from memory, but so if I get things a little bit wrong, forgive me.
Fine.
What they tried to do was tie a bunch of things in how we funded colleges and who could take the loans and who was accredited to the rate of loan repayment. And the thing they were tracking there was how can you define which colleges are truly failing their students? Right? How would you go about and try to figure that answer out? Right? There are a lot of colleges, right? They're all across the country.
That's smart.
Who's failing?
Yeah.
One way to figure it out is where do you see people go into college, either completing it or not completing it, and then unable to pay back the loans they took to go there. And so what the administration did, sort of as I remember,
UC
but again, it's been
Santa Barbara. That's how you define it.
How dare you? You went to Santa Barbara?
Of course I did, dude. Nobody's paying back those loans. Dove still got loans from UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah. So that's a situation where they began to try to crack down, including, by the way, on one Trump University, which had problems like this, right? A lot there. So the first thing they began to focus on were these for-profit degree mills. When we talk about this, we're thinking about UC Santa Barbara, we're talking about Harvard, we're talking about this upper crust of selective four-year schools.
Right.
It's 50 schools.
Yeah.
Most people don't go to them.
Right.
Most people are just going to schools you haven't heard of, or that they're just not as selective, and they're the people who are mostly really in trouble afterwards, right?
Right.
And so that's where a lot of the legislation started.
That's interesting.
And where they were trying to do things. Did it go far enough? I'm sure not. I think one of my frustrations is the new right, the sort of Trumpist right. It has, if you read their books and their literature and the smart people, and there's a lot of good critiques of colleges in there.
Right.
And they come in and do completely politicized horseshit, right? They're not trying to make them better. They're just trying to break them until they bend the knee, which to me, there's a particular pain in watching people identify problems, come into power without the coalitions and make those problems hard to solve,
Right.
and then just like also refuse to solve the problems because they're so focused on their own resentments and enmities. But yeah, it would be good to really think about higher education. Like, I'll pose this as like a question, I guess, for you all. I think at the base of a lot of this conversation and the ways that higher education has gotten, if we want to say it, off track, is there's not actually an agreement in society anymore about what is it for? Is it to deepen your faculties as a human being, right? Like the older
No.
view of higher education, like, you know, read the great
Shame.
books and literature, shame, right? Is it
It's
to get a
shame.
good job?
To get a job.
Now, I think for some people, and I think that does still exist. I think like the quickest pathway to upward mobility is through education. Like, I think if
Yeah.
you're somebody that comes from destitute poverty and you manage to get a college education, you'll get a job. And yes, you might be saddled with these loans for the rest of your life, but you'll be able to move out of poverty.
Yeah.
What's happening right now, I think, is that middle class people, I think this brings us to Mamdani, is like middle class people feel entitled if they go through the system that they have been promised. If they go to school, they take out the loans, they get the education, that they will be promised upward mobility. And now they're in New York City and they're paying $7,000 to live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and they have $2,000 worth of loans every single month, and they have a job that pays 6 figures, which is like, holy shit, I'm rich. But then they realize they don't have any money left. And they really don't see upward mobility even in the company. A lot of their friends are getting laid off, and they're going, fuck, I did everything right. I did what you guys said I should do, but I'm not going to be able to buy a home or start a family.